All right, peace and welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about how one DA, a district attorney, has dropped a number of cases involving the same officers that beat Tyre Nichols. We're going to share with you the latest situation with that. Also, we're going to be checking in with one of our great culture crew members, Karen Connors, to talk about how she's making history in the city of Los Angeles with taking her community to work to the next level. Yep, we're going to talk to her. Later on, we check in with another culture crew member, Corinna Denise, to talk about how students say that the Florida law does not promote academic freedom. We're going to get her take on the protest that's happening down Miami in lieu of the new Black History standards for this year's school season. And then later, if we get to it, folks, should we start to reject the idea of Black excellence? I'm going to share with you one video, what one reality show star had to say about the idea and get your take on it. So stay with me. That's happening all on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. There we go. Happy Friday, folks. Happy Friday, and thank you so much for tuning in. Folks, we are streaming on so many platforms, so make sure you do your due diligence and let your friends and family know where we are streaming at. But you can first check us out on our home site at blackstarnetwork.com. That's blackstarnetwork.com. We would love to get your support there and let people know that they can follow us and continue to support us financially and in other ways. So we're there. We're also on Plex TV. That can be found on your TV. Just search for Black Star Network and find us in the live TV news and opinion. And we're streaming live now on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then if you're saying, okay, you're on Plex, we're also on Amazon News as well. So make sure that you check us out on your Fire TV for Amazon News. Just tell Alexa, play news from Black Star Television, Black Star Network. And boom, we come right up there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There we go. The distribution is just getting bigger and bigger. And that's because of your support, folks. That is what this media's platform is all about, just branching out to have the conversations that are certainly important. We're also streaming on social media sites, Facebook, and you can join us in the chat right now to stream live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. Just go on YouTube under Roland Martin, and you can jump in the chat and be a part of our great culture crew and be a part of the crew today as we have these conversations. And I'm always excited to see so many new names popping up in the chat. New ideas, new voices, and a big shout out to my OG legacy culture crew that's been with us from day one. Yes, thank y'all so much. But so many people, there we go. So many people are checking in, and we got some new contributors today here on the platform. So big shout out to John Adams, who is one of our new fans on the Bring the Funk fan club, level 1. John, thank you for your support. We truly, truly appreciate that. Also, we want to welcome BTW76. We see you, we thank you, and we hope that you enjoyed today's show. And with the best. Come on, it's Friday. What you expect, y'all? What y'all expect? So big shout out to everybody there. I see you, Willie Frazier, Boza Blick. Thank you so much, brothers, for checking in. My sister, Pretty Brown Mimi 726. I see you. Pastor Damon Bassett, who is leading the Block Church, will come up in this space and be an active fool, because Pastor Damon Bassett will shut you down, folks. He will block you. There we go. Real Brooklyn, my guy. Good to see you once again. Kevin Sprague, welcome to the chat. Welcome to being a part of the culture crew. Deidre Hall, my sister, good to connect with you again. And Tiana, yes, hey, Tiana. Janelle, hey, everyone. Hey, Janelle, good to connect with you. Anastasia Paget. Anastasia, checking in all the way from the great city of Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much, Anastasia. We love to hear what you have to say. We know you are very vocal, so Keep it coming, sis. Keep it coming. Jacqueline Boateng, happy Friday, Jacqueline. Thank you so much for checking in once again. And I see my man Kevin. Happy Friday. Kevin, happy Friday to you and your family, sir. I'm glad the header has caught your eye for real, so I appreciate that. All right, folks, let's jump right into it very quickly. I want to just briefly talk about this latest development in this case around the idea of some cops, the same cops that were responsible for beating on Tyre Nichols are now, all of their cases are being reviewed, and already the district attorney down in Shelby County has decided to drop 30 to 40 cases involving the 5 former officers who have been charged with the second-degree murder of the beating of Tyre Nichols, folks. Let me just share with you the latest coming from the statement from Shelby County, as the district attorney, Stephen Mulroy, the spokesperson there, said that the charges were reduced in about a dozen other cases involving the former Memphis police officers. I'm looking at paragraph 2 here, folks. 4 cases were referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office for allegations of excessive force, the district attorney's office added. The decisions follow a review by Mulroy's office of about 100 cases shared among the officers. According to the statement, DA Mulroy cites that the dismissal came down to the lack of credibility from the 5 officers since the charges, and this comes from his spokesperson, Erica Williams, in the statement. So they have already started looking at dropping these charges, dropping these cases because of bad cops, folks. And this is essentially what we may start to see happening in other areas, that especially when you have these special units, these specialized units, like I mentioned before, in Baltimore, we have the Gun Trace Task Force. Once they saw that these this specialized unit, Gun Trace Task Force, were violating civil rights, using excessive force, it just brought home the fact that some of these cases and some of the people that they locked up may be actually innocent, that they may have been coerced, they may have been beaten to confess to something that they didn't do. So it puts the whole case in question and in jeopardy. And so the fact that you had these 5 cops that who had murdered our brother Tyre Nichols, and now at this point, they might have put other people's lives in jeopardy. And folks, this is why when we talk about police reform, this is what we're talking about. Bad apples have to be taken out of the barrel. Otherwise, the actions of the bad apples will start to spread. And imagine that. Imagine that happening, folks. Let me get your take on this very quickly, crew, as we talk about this. And you can post your comments in the chat on our YouTube page under Roland Martin. You know, looking at how all of these cases are reviewed from the DA, do you see this happening more often once we start clamping down on police reform? Share your thoughts with me, folks. And I would love to get your take on this. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I'm going to just take a few minutes to talk a little bit more about this situation, because the bad apples have to be taken out, folks. They have to be rooted out. Otherwise, justice won't be served. Or, as we see with these former Memphis police officers, injustice will be served. So we want to talk a little bit more about this on the other side. So stay with us. We're just jumping into the mix of things. We got a lot to talk about in this first hour right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money make this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I've been talking about this latest development in the cases of the 5 police officers who have been charged with second-degree murder for the killing and the beating of Tyre Nichols. 5 of those, you all remember, those 5 police officers, 5 black men down in Memphis, Tennessee. They have been now under a different level of scrutiny, not for Tyre Nichols, but because of their use of excessive force in that particular case. It has opened the conversation and the door for them to look at the DA down in Shelby County to look at the cases that all of these officers are involved in. They're talking about reviewing 100 cases. The DA has already announced that they're planning to drop 30 to 40 cases just because of the nature in which these men do their jobs as police officers, using excessive force, and it calls the issue of credibility to be the real big discussion around this situation. So to even have, for us to be in this place where these black men are being scrutinized, and I think Namre, you checked in. Namre, you said, I would love to see this happen on a larger scale. However, it's interesting how these cases are being mentioned publicly, but those cases involving corrupt white cops are pretty much not mentioned. Now, I would agree with you on that, just because we do hear about when white cops, corrupt white cops, do, police brutality, but they don't show the history of those cases, right? And I think, to Namre, to your point, they don't show the history of those cases. And y'all remember when I just had, and it was a dope conversation yesterday that we had with our sister, the sister of Botham Jean, our sister Elisa, excuse me. When Sister Elisa made the point that a lot of these cop cases, they don't go into detail. They kind of hide the history of these police officers, especially when she said, like, some officers, they will fail certain tests and they're still allowed to perform their duty as police officers, even though they have questionable psychiatric evaluation results. They have questionable behavior, mental health issues, outright biases and racist views. They're still allowed to serve. They're still allowed to be used to protect and serve us as the community. And so now we got to do this. We can't just hold that same standard to white police officers. We got to hold that same standard to black police officers, as the situation. So the Shelby County District Attorney is saying, look, we're going to drop these cases 30 to 40 right now, and it may be more. There may be some more. Let me see. Tiana, my sister, you said, I'm not surprised. This calls into question if those arrests were legit. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And if that's the case, folks, can you imagine specialized units or even just officers, individual officers, having and being involved in police brutality cases, and then you got to look back at all the cases that they were involved in. Some of these police departments and these district attorneys do not have the time nor the capacity to go through that process of reviewing those cases. But I remember when Derek Chauvin, the murderer of George Floyd, they said that he had problems in his job. Of course, this was not the first time that Derek Chauvin used excessive force. So now it's about our police departments doing enough to hold officers accountable. But more importantly, we have to look at whether police departments are working in our best interest, because if they allow certain officers who have, credible, issues of credibility, if they allow certain officers who have a history of violence or use of excessive force, and they still allow them on, we got to figure something else out. Something else has to give. It can't just be enough to say, okay, let's get rid of one bad cop. It really comes down to a department. Now, that's a whole big thing. That's something that you got to bring in a lot more manpower and resources to address. But that's a department problem. That's a department problem. And it is a real issue today, folks. It is a very real issue. So I wanted to just bring that to your attention, that now we're seeing some pushback, some blowback rather, from about these police officers who killed Tyre Nichols. And now we might see some level of justice for other victims of these police officers. The sad thing about it is that these were 5 Black officers. Benny Hill, my guy, you checked in, you said we need more community review boards without the restraints, right? A lot of these community review boards, I know in my work of working with police in Baltimore, they don't have teeth. You know what I'm saying, Benny? A lot of these like community, what they used to call them, they call them the community review boards, but they would get, some type of input from the community. They don't really, they can provide recommendations and suggestions on how to improve policing. But when it comes down to it, they have no real teeth. They have no real voice on getting these recommendations and getting these ideas to a place where they will be implemented, even though they're coming directly from the community members. It still becomes this very shallow window dressing attempt to address the problem of police brutality. So I appreciate you for breaking that down. Everett Chancellor checking in. You said it comes down to police reform. Absolutely. This is part of the conversation. I know we got qualified immunity on the table around this part of the conversation, but this also becomes a part of the conversation, really pushing that when you have bad apples within the police department, right? You look at their history, that they are either removed from the police department altogether, or they suffer severe consequences for bad behavior. Great point, Everett. Thank you so much for checking in. My guy, rural Brooklyn, you said, I said it before and I'll say it again, as long as cops are investigating cops, there will be no accountability. Having internal affairs investigating cops is a big oxymoron. You know what, rural Brooklyn? I got you. I hear you. And guess what? I agree with you. I think it's the craziest thing that they're supposed to be unbiased, right? But look, something that I've learned in my time of activism with the police reform and dealing with the issue of police reform, you can get another independent entity to come into the process and to look at those cases. Hell, you can get places like the ACLU and other, community law centers. you can bring them into the fold. But do police officers really want to be monitored or police on how they do their job? No. Police departments are one of the most powerful institutions in our government, right? One of the most powerful institutions. And the reason that they get the power is because, one, the culture of crime has taken over all of our lives, right? So we are all screaming and yelling, we need something done. Something needs to be done. So that's why in cities across this country, whether you're talking about from Los Angeles to New York, to Baltimore, Chicago, to Atlanta, a huge portion of the police budget, of the city's budget, is allocated for public safety. Folks, I trust and believe me, I've done the research. Huge portion. In the city of Baltimore, it was nearly 30%. In other places, it's even higher. So the question becomes, if we want to change policing, then we also have to change some things on our side as community members and say, okay, all I want to do is arrest our way out of this situation of violence. You can do that. And there are some mayors and some governors that are trying to figure out some new alternatives on that process. But that still comes down to when that word is put out by a political leader or by the mayor, by the governor, that we need to get tougher on crime, that opens the door for police to be get more funds. That opens the door for them to get more resources. That opens the door for certain policies like stop and frisk to exist, right? Because why? When the mayor hear the people say, oh my God, we need more police, the crime rate is crime, then fine. Okay, fine. We'll put more money into it. And it's considered to be a justifiable means to the end. All right, Robert Pearson, Frederick Cox, thank you so much for your support as you come and be a part of the Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We appreciate that. Sheila, you checked in and said, why were the charges dropped? Because mostly because these police officers used excessive force on Tyre Nichols. So again, this is not their first time. So there was a history of violence and excessive force that we use in some of these other cases. And so, the credibility goes out the window. The credibility goes out the window. If they're willing to beat a man down and kill a man on camera, can you imagine what they're doing without anyone else's look? Can you imagine that? So the credibility of the officers become in question, and now you got to check to see if the arrests are made. So we will certainly keep you posted on any other developments of this, but I'm happy that even though Tyre Nichols has lost his life opened the door for other people the loss of his life opened the door for people to get their lives back, because some of these cases have been dropped by these rogue corrupt cops. Again, it's unfortunate that they were black men. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about something a little bit on the upside as we check in with Culture Crew member Karen Connors to talk about how she's looking to serve the community and make some history in the great city of Los Angeles. Stay with me. That conversation's up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Just wanted to take a few moments because I want to do something a little different here on the show. I'm going to start this conversation off with my sister, but I wanted just to let y'all know some of you are really doing some phenomenal work. I mean, all of you are doing some work in some way, shape, or form. But, you know, when you are have an opportunity to serve the community the way that some of us are serving the community, we want to make sure that we highlight that. So I want to invite you to make sure y'all shoot me an email. I'm going to say this at the beginning and at the end of this part of the conversation. You can shoot me an email at Farajii, Farajii at blackstarnetwork.com. And I would love to hear some of the great things you guys are doing in the community. If you got videos of stuff, if you got, if you got involved in city government, if you're doing some things, like, come on, look, we got to give people flowers while we can. And so this is an opportunity for us to do that with our sister and culture crew member, Karen Connors. Karen, I appreciate you. Welcome back to the show. You were a part of, of course, our culture crew, but we had a conversation with you about insurance, but you're doing way more than that now. You are working in the city of Los Angeles. You're from LA, but You're working now in the city of Los Angeles in a lot of different capacities with a very, very new role, an important role you just got sworn into just a few days ago. Talk to us about this new role, Karen, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be back, Farajii, and hello, Culture family. Yes, I was honored to be contacted by Mayor Bass's office and offered the position of commissioner on the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners here in the city of Los Angeles. There are only 7 commissioners. I am now the 3rd Black commissioner, and the position came about by my service on my local neighborhood council. Neighborhood councils are the liaisons with City Hall and the community, and we address matters that impact the unique needs of our communities. And my work over the last 5.5 years got the attention and was brought to the attention of Mayor Bass. And I was recommended by several individuals in the city for this position and was surprised at how fast it actually moved ahead. And I was sworn in actually on my grandson's 20th birthday. So it was nice to be in city council chambers and have him in Los Angeles to witness it.
That is awesome. That is awesome. All right, let me just share this with you. And again, folks, Karen is not going to be the only one we highlighting here, but she's getting the ball rolling. So again, I'm advising everybody, if you're doing some great things like Karen is doing here in the city of LA, wherever you are, shoot me an email at Farajii at blackstarnetwork.com. Karen, let me just kind of break this down. 4 years as vice president, years as an executive committee member and chair of outreach and publicity. You got 2 years of planning and land use management committee. Now you're a part of you're a commissioner for the board of neighborhood commissioners. What is that work that, what is the BONC? What is that work all about?
The Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, actually, we are subordinate to City Council and Mayor Bass, but we make policy. So as we have discussed on the culture and the chat and so forth, this is how you get involved and make a difference. Now, with my fellow commissioners, we can actually identify some issues within the neighborhood council system that have developed over the last 21 years. And we can make some changes for the community benefit and for the neighborhood council board members' benefit.
So when we're talking about you're working like underneath of the neighborhood council, and this is something that we just discussed dealing with the police reform. How much teeth does the board of neighborhood councils really have in changing policy, providing recommendations, and really getting the ear of the city council and the mayor of LA to make the difference you want to see?
Sure. There are neighborhood councils, just for a little point of clarification, there are neighborhood councils here in LA, but across the United States, we have a community council or a city council. So here in Los Angeles, participating in the neighborhood council, you have the opportunity to, as a council, submit a community impact statement. During the last 3 years, we've had a lot on police reform, and we write specifics on what needs to be changed, and those particular impact statements are submitted to city council and committees, and they do review them, and they make decisions and often vote based on the community impact statements submitted by the various neighborhood councils.
So, and that helps to serve as a liaison between the community and the city.
Yes.
Gotcha. And what is the big what are some of the big or the major priorities for the neighborhood committee, the neighborhood councils?
The priorities right now, Farajii, are there have been some issues that have taken place within the neighborhood councils. I was a strong advocate for the anti-bias, diversity, inclusion, and equity training, making that mandatory for all city employees and officials, regardless of whether they are elected, whether they are paid or unpaid. So it's very important that we address that, because we've had a great deal of problems within the neighborhood councils with discrimination. And there was Councilmember Bonin, who you may recall was the victim of the audio that we all heard around the world from our previous council president. And that is an example of that, where that training was emphasized and why she was forced to resign.
So what is going to, now, Karen, you got your hands in a lot of different pots. So what is the big thing that you want to do as part of this neighborhood council? And talk to us about why it's so important to get involved in local politics and local activism and doing local work like this, why this is so important.
Because you make a difference when you get involved. This is how your voice is heard. I got into the neighborhood council by accident, like I think many people do, where a developer was coming into my community to build 440 apartments. And this is a big community where that doesn't happen. And it is the same developer who is developing Crenshaw and King, the former Baldwin Plaza. So they come in aggressively. So what we do as a community is we take that on, and with our council member, we can make those changes. So now on the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, working directly to make sure that the communities are correctly served. because many people do not know each neighborhood council receives $32,000 a year of taxpayer money. And it's important for us to remember, and I've already had this conversation downtown, it is important for all neighborhood council board members to remember, regardless of whatever biases they may have, they can't have biases when taxpayer dollars. And what we do with those taxpayer dollars is to develop our community. Sorry, got something going on unexpected.
It's all good.
But we have, so what happens is someone will present to us what's called a neighborhood purposes grant for a matter that is something that impacts our community directly. And we can fund that. And it has to be a 501c3 organization. And it's open to everyone, not just a particular race. So it's time to revisit this collaboratively with my fellow commissioners and city council to make sure that it is understood, that we have to we represent everyone, and if we can't do that, then we can't serve. So that's a major issue, and I've experienced racism, when I first started, and needless to say, dealt with the situation, and that's why I'm here. Absolutely.
So you decided that enough was enough, that you want to take your words and put it into some action, and get involved. And you've been doing this work, Karen, for how long? Because just for full transparency, when I started, when I made the announcement and Karen found out that I moved to LA, she was like one of the first people to send me an email, and it's like, Farajii, we need to talk. to officially welcome me to the city of Los Angeles. So, this is a big step. This is all a part about where we want to get our people to a place that you don't have to just keep complaining about something. You can get involved in the fight and lead the change that you want to see.
You can, and you know what, Farajii, you can also, even if maybe due to time constraints and other obligations, you can't commit to actually being a board member on the neighborhood council, you can still attend the meetings, which are only once a month. Some tend to be a little long, but on average, they're about 2 hours. And this is where you can communicate your community concerns, and you can also hear other community concerns. Local law enforcement is obviously, usually present, and so you can speak to them as well. And the more you participate, and what happened to me is, as I seem to have a presence that allowed me to be invited to more panels, more workshops, more discussions, more committees, and all of the work and the voice behind all of that in the last 5 years is what put me into a position to be recommended to Mayor Bass for the commissioner position.
There it is right there. There it is. Well, first and foremost, congratulations again, Karen. We truly, truly appreciate you. It's so great to have a sister like you that's a part of the crew to give us some insight about a lot of things. You stay vocal in the chat, but as we do a little culture crew spotlight with you, and I'm hoping that more of our culture crew members are going to jump into the fray to get involved, do something for your community, be inspired by the conversations that we have on this show, and hopefully taking it to the next step to get involved to change the situation wherever you live. So, Karen, congratulations, and God willing, we will be reconnecting very soon.
Sounds good. It's good to see you. Have a great week.
You too. Thank you, Karen.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Our sister culture crew member Karen checking in, y'all, and making some great history. There we go. In the great city of Los Angeles. Again, fam, if you want to join us in the conversation, or more important, if you want to have a little spotlight shown on you, shoot me an email at Farajii@blackstarnetwork.com, Farajii@blackstarnetwork.com, and just say, Farajii, I'm a culture crew member, but this is what I'm doing in my community, and just give us some insight, because we want to let people know that these conversations are inspiring people to take action in some way, shape, or form. So this is an opportunity for you to be seen, for you to kind of get yourself out there a little bit more, and most importantly, to show the culture that there are some people that are willing to make the changes that we want to see. So big shout out to all of our change agents and our change makers right there in the crew. And I would love to shine a little spotlight on every one of you who are making a difference. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, another crew member is going to be joining us for some conversations. Got my sister Corinna Denise on the other side. She's going to help us break down what we're seeing in Miami as students and teachers are coming together to protest not just the Black History Standard, but are also saying that this latest round of censorship it stunts any type of academic freedom. So we're going to be checking in with Corinna Denise, who is a counselor and a teacher and an activist, to give us some insight as to what this looked like, and most importantly, what are the next steps for students and teachers in Miami, Florida, and all over the state. So stay with us. That conversation is up next. Plus, I got some stuff for you for trends. So we're going to be rocking out here on for the next hour of the culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay Black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Happy Friday, folks, and thank you so much for tuning in for the second hour of the show. If you missed the first hour, we had a little Culture Crew spotlight on one of our great Culture Crew members, Miss Karen Waters, who's talking about the work that she's doing here in the city of Los Angeles to improve neighborhoods for the better. So we had a little chat with her as we spotlight some of our great Culture Crew members, those who are doing some fantastic work. And folks, I know each one of you who are tuned in are involved in this something to help our people, to help our community, to take Black America to the next level. So again, shoot an email to me at Farajii@blackstarnetwork.com, Farajii@blackstarnetwork.com, and let me know what you're doing. If you got some video, and most importantly, we'll do our best to give you your flowers now because you're so good for the culture. Also, folks, we are streaming right now on a number of platforms. You can check us out on our home network, our homepage at blackstarnetwork.com. You can find us online there, and you can give something, and we would love for your continued support of Black Star Network. So just go to our website. We're streaming now on Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So just go to Plex TV and just say, hey, pull up Black Star Network and find us under live TV, news, and opinion. Take a look at that, folks. So we are streaming live now on Plex TV. Big shout out to Plex for carrying the network. We're also on Amazon News, folks. So you can check us out on Amazon Fire TV. You can tell Alexa, Alexa, play news from Black Star Network. Streaming there now, live, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And of course, we are on Facebook right now and streaming on YouTube under Roland Martin's YouTube page. So go to Roland Martin, go to the YouTube page, and join us in the chat and be one of our great culture crew members for the day. Now, big shout out to some new supporters. Tijuana Royster, welcome to the Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. Thank you so much, Tijuana. We hope that you're enjoying the show. So I appreciate your support. We appreciate your support of the work that we're doing. And Jay Boogie, welcome to Bring the Funk Fan Club again, another Level 1 member. Jay Boogie, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to the culture. Welcome to the culture crew. We truly appreciate your support, and we hope to get more. Oh, also, we got Ard. Ard checked in. Welcome to the Bring the Funk Fan Club Level 1. See, this is what we do. This is what we do. So big shout out to all of our new supporters here on the culture, on the Black Star Network. And we truly appreciate it, and we look forward to continuing to make this a great platform for your news and information. All right, folks, let's have this other conversation about the state of Florida. Y'all remember earlier this week, I told you that there was a major protest that happened in Miami-Dade County where a number of school officials, labor leaders, and others decided to take their words and take it to action and show their disdain for this latest change of curriculum relating to Black history. Well, the protest doesn't stop there, folks. Apparently, students and teachers got back into the streets to also protest the fact that, you know what, a lot of academic freedom is not being honored here. Take a look at this story from NBC News as we talk about this. And this is something that we're seeing happening all over the state of Florida. But take a look. I want you to let y'all know that there was an actual lawsuit that was filed in federal court earlier this week on Monday by students and professors at New College, which is a progressive school with a prominent LGBTQ plus community that was taken over earlier this year by DeSantis and his allies, who claimed it was indoctrinating students with leftist ideology. The measure, passed by the Republican-dominated legislature this year, outlaws spending on diversity programs, curbs professor tenure security, and prohibits the teaching of quote-unquote identity politics in Florida's public schools. Now, take a look at this, folks. This is we're getting some pushback. So not only is it about Black folks, it's about LGBTQ plus folks. There's going to be a coalition of people who are standing against the Florida governor, his administration, and the Department of Education. Let me share with you another part of this law here coming from the same report, where it says that the new law also directs university leaders to monitor against programs that are based on theories that systemic racism, sexism, oppression, and privilege are inherent in the institutions of the United States and were created to maintain social, political, and economic inequity. The suit alleges that the law is unconstitutional because it's overly broad and chills free speech. Specifically, it says the law jeopardizes courses at the Honors College on gender studies, queer studies, race, sociology, feminist philosophy, and other subjects that affect the school's curriculum, textbooks, classroom teaching, research, and students' educational experiences. So it's Friday, and I thought, well, who better to give us some insight into this very complex understanding of things, this very complex system of education than one of our very own Culture Crew member, Corinna Denise, who is also a college advisor. She is an educator working with students and an activist. So I'm happy to have her back on the show. She was taking a little R&R, traveling around the world doing her thing, but we have her back in studio, or at least back in digital studio with us today. Corinna, good to see you once again. How you feeling this afternoon?
Hey, happy Friday, crew. Good to see you, Farajii. And
happy Friday.
With you.
Happy Friday, happy Friday. There we go. All right, Corinna, this is right up your wheelhouse, right? Talking about education, talking about equity, talking about access to opportunities. What is happening in Florida right now, especially given that there have been a major protest? We talked about this on Thursday. There was one on Wednesday, I believe. And then you got this lawsuit. What is going on in Miami right now?
What's not going on? I feel like we're always in the news, right? Florida is ground zero for everything, especially when it comes to education right now. So yes, I was out of the country. I was in Kemet, Egypt for about 2 weeks. Come on, getting some history. Yes, being magnificent. I would say it was a pilgrimage, right? More sorts than anything. But yeah, it was amazing. And I spent some time just disconnecting from media and news. So I knew when I was coming home, I was going to come home to something. And of course, it's in my hometown. Go for it. But yeah, so there were some protests earlier this week. A lot of teachers and students marched down to the school board of Miami-Dade County to protest what's been happening in Florida with the changes in curriculum and these outrageous laws. So you're going to see a lot of that. But something that sticks out to me, Farajii, particularly, and I know we talk a lot about it on this platform, the voting piece. We have to remember to make that connection while we're out in the streets now protesting to the ballot box next year. You know, we need to replicate it. We need to mirror it. What we're seeing in the streets now, we need to see that at the ballot box, because we can hold up our signs, we can protest, we can chant, but unless we actually change the dynamics, okay, of the Florida State Legislature. And I just want to read some notes. You know, I got my notes.
Come on.
Reminder, okay, Culture Crew. Ron DeSantis gets a lot of credit for what's happening in Florida, especially in the media, I think, in my view. Yes, he is the fascist governor and he's signing these things into law. However, okay, he has an all-star legislature who's making him a star. So let's remember why this is happening and why we're protesting right now. In the Florida House, it's a 120-member body. 86 of those members are Republicans. 35 are Democrats. Okay? So that's just to tell you the super majority that they have. Additionally, with the Florida Senate, it's a 40-member body. 28 of those members are Republicans, 12 Democrats. Okay, so we have a super majority. So to all of my teacher friends, educators, students, this is especially a great opportunity to galvanize our youth, specifically because as we look to our history, it has always been young people, Farajii, who have made the changes, right, and have pushed us forward. You know, all of our great leaders, they were young people. And we have to remember that right now. So while we're making our voices heard, we have to actually change the dynamics. And I wanted to mention the numbers, particularly in the legislature and the Senate, because I don't give a damn how much we protest. If we do not bubble in who we need to be in office, shit's never going to change, period. So are we ready to make the change? We have to connect our protests to the vote. And that's just so important for us to move forward and for things to change in Florida. And we have the numbers. We just got to reach people, wake them up, start educating them on matters. You know, some people are just having a hard time dealing with life and they're really just disconnected and not even engaged, right? And I think it's not that a lot of people don't care, they just don't know. But for those of us who do know, it is our calling and our responsibility to make sure that all of us know, so that collectively we can blow up the ballot box. We can fire Ron DeSantis. Not next year,
But
unfortunately.
Right. I was about to say, man, he looked like he just kind of locked in for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So we will see how that situation will play out. But to your point of kind of like getting involved, there is something that is inherently happening. I got to take a quick pause on this, Corinna, but when we come back, I want us to talk a little bit about this. Does this conversation that we see happening in Florida around LGBTQ studies, around Black history, is it significant enough to really change the educational landscape nationwide? Is it a Florida thing, or is it, so do you foresee it becoming a real American thing? Because there are a couple of states, we talked about it here on the show. You got like Arkansas, there's Nebraska. We talk a little bit about Texas and stuff, but do you see this kind of pushback on including a lot of different groups into the educational experience? Do you see this spreading nationwide? I want to get your take on that, crew. Also, I want to hear from you as we talk about the latest form of academic censorship that is happening in the state of Florida, that members of the LGBTQ plus community and students and teachers and professors have filed a lawsuit against the state of Florida because they feel like this new law does not allow for academic freedom to happen. So I want to get your take on that. Join us in the conversation. We also got to give another big shout out because so many of you are checking in and showing your support for the Black Star Network. So Mary Sampson, thank you for your support. Welcome to the Bring the Funk fan club. We got you. Christopher Burke, thank you so much for checking in and being a part of the fan club. Come on, there it is right there. So folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with Corinna, Denise, and certainly with you, my culture crew. Stay with us. Discussion will continue on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, checking in with my sister, Corinna Denise, who is one of our great culture crew members, but she's also a college advisor. She's an educator and an activist. And we're talking about the new law down in Florida that many students and professors down in Florida, in Miami, are saying censors academic freedom. This is based on a lawsuit that was just recently filed against the state of Florida in federal court Monday by New College, which is a progressive school with a prominent LGBTQ plus community that was taken over earlier this year by Governor DeSantis and his administration, who claimed that it was indoctrinating students with quote unquote leftist ideology. Now, I've been talking to my sister, Corinna Denise, about this as we're having this discussion. And Corinna, I want to bring you back into the frame because I also want to get some take from our crew members around this situation. But this is very interesting. Now, here's the interesting part about this. I want to get your take on, do you think that what's happening in Florida is significant enough to serve as the new educational approach? Do you think that this thing is going to spread? There are only a couple of states that are falling under conservative rule. Arkansas, we just saw with Governor Sarah Huckabee. Nebraska, they are talking about doing some elimination of certain Black history studies. We know Texas has already done that with Governor Greg Abbott. We got Florida. But do you feel like this is going to create an even more stronger sense of support? And then I want to get your thoughts on another element of the story. But what's your take on that first?
Oh, absolutely. I really do think it's almost like a coordinated activity. And slowly, things are being unveiled. But absolutely, Florida is ground zero right now. We've been the primary example for what's been happening. But no question, Farajii, I think we're definitely going to see this happening in more and more states. And more importantly, we have to consider we will definitely see this on a federal level if we don't do our job in 2024.
And you're talking about going to the polls, voting, and all of those good things, right?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Yes. That's the thing about this, Corinna, and crew, y'all talk to me about what's your take on this as we have this conversation. That's the thing, because there's something, there was an interesting point that NBC News report pointed out that I want to bring to this part of the conversation, which is the Florida governor, he took over this school. Now, here's the thing. I don't know what was the status of the school for the governor to take it over. And I'm talking about New College, but he took over this school. Now, to me, if the governor of a state is deciding to take over a school, either that school is failing or either that school needs some additional resources, some type of state intervention has been called in. But if it's a takeover simply on ideology, now we're talking about like a slippery slope here, right? Mm-hmm. Because now you're getting into a space where you're like, okay, I don't like the ideology, therefore it's not good. And that is problematic anytime you're talking about a public official taking over either a public or private school. So that's part of the concern that I have, is that he took over the school and it's not clear if it's just based on ideology. This opens up the door for anybody to do that. And I mean, any governor, right? Mm-hmm. This opens up that that can. And I think that is, and then and the other thing about this, Corinna, they're not explaining exactly outside of what we already know, but they're not really giving any real legitimate, justifiable reason for them to take over. If it's just a matter of ideology, hell, can y'all imagine just saying, okay, you're in a position of power and influence, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna shut down this business because I just don't like their products.
Mm-hmm. And you know what, Farajii? I like to add a little context here. So I gotta
go ahead, please. Go ahead. Oh, here we go. We got Professor Corinna. Look, she went to Kemet and she got all Professor I'm gonna bring Dr. Carl on the joint, man, because I can't even talk to my sister no more, man.
I'm sorry, Farajii, but I'm back now. But yeah, guys. So you brought up some great points, Farajii. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Here in the state of Florida, we have 12 public universities here. New College being one of them. New College is located near Tampa in the city of Sarasota. Okay, so if we just look at the dynamics of that area, in my view, that's a primary location for a lot of the folks who would follow Tangerine, Tyrant, DeSatan, and all the GOP alike, right? So why did New College stick out for him, particularly to want to take over and make these abrupt changes? And adding to that, I was reading an article on Inside Higher Ed, and some additional changes are also happening at New College. They're definitely focused on recruiting athletes. I thought that was an interesting factor. So a lot of the traditional upperclassmen dorms, okay, are now for athletes. Upperclassmen are being prioritized to have on-campus housing. So, okay. There has been a mass exodus of faculty members at New College. And in addition to that, there are incessant changes to the course catalog. School starts next week. So can you imagine that you usually want to have your course schedule, arranged. You want to, if you're planning, if you're going to class Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but things just keep happening. And basically, from what I'm reading in Inside Higher Ed in their reporting, the college is telling the students, just change to something else. It's no big deal, But you're playing with a student's education. So it raises a red flag for me, especially. What about first time in college freshmen, especially who are moving away from home? You have to adjust to being in a new area. You would at least think those things are aligned, and a lot of them are not. In addition to that, they're housing a lot of students in a hotel. Okay? The Hyatt near the airport in that area, in a hotel. So there's so many things that are happening, but I find it very ironic that even the New College baseball team, they have more members now than even University of Florida in Gainesville. So, I know with athletics that can draw on a lot of green pieces of paper, dollars, but it just seems very ironic. I do not have all the details. I'm going to be very transparent about that, but it does have me thinking, I want to delve into this more. What is the end goal for them? Because, there's always a benefit in addition to stirring up, their racist base and leveraging education. And I think a lot of this started, Farajii, early in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. Remember when schools were closing and kids had to stay home? A lot of those white parents in particular were very pissed off about that. Yeah. And Chris Rufo, who I believe DeSantis appointed as a member to the New College Board, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, he was one of the prominent people who started to stir the pot with, white parents who were upset about schools shutting down. So then that's where all the critical race theory came from. And now this laser focus on education. But where the hell we are before being concerned about education? And we've just seen that domino from kindergarten all the way up to higher ed. So yes, there's so many different things going on at New College, but I think there are a lot of factors why DeSantis would specifically target that college. Okay, like I said, that is one college out of the 12 public institutions in Florida. We also have Florida Gulf Coast University, University of Central Florida, which is like the second largest university in the country after Arizona State. You have Florida State University, where I went, Florida A&M, okay? These are our public institutions. University of North Florida, University of West Florida. So, but why New College? And I definitely suspect that location, demographics in that area, especially with the prominent LGBTQ community, okay? In an area where there are a lot of prominent Trump supporters who don't like that, they're definitely leveraging this to their advantage. There's a method to that.
Man, oh man. Man, oh man. Yep. I'm glad you gave us some context on where New College sit in the big scheme of things, because it's still crazy. Let me say it's still crazy, but I see exactly what you're saying. Let me take a couple of comments very quickly. Then we're gonna take our next pause. You are not a victim. You said this. You said, I think we have to let states govern themselves. And remember, we live in a republic. If your state doesn't work for you, move to another state. The people elected him, and who are we to judge? I'm going to let you answer that.
He pushed back on that. You're not a victim, because especially when you're looking at history, I'm going to just reference something quickly because I know we have to go to break. The Civil War. I remember learning in grade school, that was the guise of the Civil War, right? Oh, states' rights, states' rights. No, it was about the wicked business of slavery. And we continue to see that thread even present day, saying, oh, let the states handle it. Same thing with Roe v. Wade. The states should determine that, right? But we see a record effect where that's being dominoed across the country. But no, the states is basically just ground zero for that to multiply into a federal thing. And if we don't wake up and do what we need to do, everyone's going to suffer. Coming to a city near you.
And because we are a state-controlled republic, a republic where we do put more emphasis, like the states have more power in a lot of ways, right? We see that. But people can't get up and move from a different state because of the politics of the state's leadership. And you just can't do. It's not that easy. It is not that easy. You can't just be like, oh, I don't like this state's politics, so let me just move my family and move into a different state. Suppose the closest state, there might be 2 or 3 states over from you. You see what I'm saying? And that was one of the big concerns that we had to do. I mean, personally, that my family and I had to do this. Is like, at the end of the day, we can go, well, certainly we could have gone someplace close to the DMV, but we're like, oh, California has a different set of progressive politics and all of those things. I mean, there were a lot of things, but politics of the state was a huge factor. And I say this, and I said this before, and I'm gonna say this again. It is very interesting that nearly 60% of Black people in this country have moved to states in the southern parts of the region who were once considered to be Confederate states. Texas, Georgia, Alabama. You see a huge number of Black people in those states. So if we're talking about moving, if we don't talk, look, I'm not up for moving from state to state because of an election. That's not how I'm flowing. I would rather start to voice my concern and say, you know what? This conservatism isn't the only politics of the state. There has to be some other stuff that has to be considered. So I hope that answered your question. You are not a victim. We got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with Corinna Denise about what's happening in the state of Florida. And folks, crew, I want to get more comments from you. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We're talking about the state of Florida, and we're talking about a new lawsuit from one of the state's colleges called New College, a progressive college that has a high number of members of LGBTQ plus community members at the college who are fighting back against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his administration around some of the curriculum issues, as these students are saying, we're not being seen, we're not being heard, and they are looking to get more courses to study things from queer studies to other major topics about LGBTQ history in the state of at New College in the state of Florida. This is a major lawsuit, folks, and I just want to pull up this lawsuit very quickly. This is a major lawsuit that has garnered, with the suit names as defendants, Florida Education Commissioner. Let me just pull this up real here. There we go. It has named the Florida Education Commissioner Manny Diaz, the Florida Board of Governors, which oversees the state's universities, and the trustees at New College, which is located in Sarasota. This is a big lawsuit from students and professors of the school about their disdain about this new law that they feel like will censor academic freedom. And again, you're talking about a law that would jeopardize the course at the Honors College on studying gender studies, queer studies, race, sociology, feminist philosophy, and other subjects that affects the school's curriculum, textbooks, classroom teachings, research, and students' educational experiences. Now, we've been having this conversation with our very own Corinna Denise, Culture Crew members, college advisor, educator, and activist. I want to bring Corinna back into the frame. Corinna, when we look at this situation here, I'm just wondering, man, oh man, it is non-stop. I'm going to share with you what people are saying about this situation down in Florida, Corinna, and I want to get your take. IZYK, you said, I have yet to see a body of civilian Democratic leaning to bring a concerted lawsuit against all those educational institutions at once. There's too much talk than real action. Do you feel like those who have a Democratic leaning, do you feel like that they're just not doing enough? They're not stepping up enough, that they're not fighting fire with fire? And I think that's what IZYK is pointing out. That same energy, keeping that same energy on the other side. Do you see that happening down in Florida? Is that happening?
I would say yes and no. I think it really just depends on who the groups are. I know something that I personally struggle with is, again, yes, we're fighting them in court, and I definitely agree we should absolutely leverage the law to our maximum capacity, right, our advantage. But at the same time, I want to just piggyback off of something you said, Farajii, before we went to break, when you mentioned that a lot of Black folks have moved to these southern states, right?
Yeah.
That have been traditionally known as Confederate states. Even there are a lot of Black people right here in the state of Florida. There are enough of us to basically end this where we don't need to even be in court. We don't even have to be fighting them and protesting. And, you know, I sound like a broken record, but it's just the truth. We don't have to be going through this if we just collectively come out and break the ballot box. DeSantis wouldn't be governor, but we didn't go to the ballot box. So now we have
but I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying. But do you feel like, I just feel like there's something more that needs to be done, right? Because that's every either 2-year or 4-year exercise, right? So it's like, at this point, DeSantis got elected again. He's got, I think, what, 2.5 years left in his office, or 3 years left for the term. So in the meantime, in between time, while that is happening, where there aren't any elections, then people have to figure out another recourse of action. And I think that's the part of trying to figure this thing out. Like, we know lawsuits can be in the toolbox of the arsenal. We know voting can be in the toolbox of the arsenal. We often talking about organizing to be in the toolbox of the arsenal. But I still feel like if we're talking about dramatic change, we even talked about this, Corinna. You've been a part of these conversations. Economic boycotts have been in the toolbox. I'm talking about from within an educational context, maybe students need to walk out of school. Maybe Black students need to walk out of school. Maybe students that are part of the LGBTQ community need to walk out of school. Maybe folks should, parents and teachers, those who are part of these schools, PTAs, need to figure out, well, what's the next course of action that we can take? You know what I'm saying? Because right now, it's coming across as if we're powerless.
Yeah, I hear you. Right. And I think, to your point about walking out, I raised some questions. Well, what would that look like? And what I mean by that is, let's say at the college level, right? Are we taking off a semester? There are some students who have stipulations with scholarships and things like that. You can only be unenrolled in courses for maybe up to 3 semesters before you're considered, withdrawn from the university. So we'd have to be very, calculated and strategic as to how we would make those moves if we decided to proceed with something like that, and how people would be supported and taken care of in the meantime. So, I just want to make it clear, because I'm definitely not against boycott. But a lot of times I think we just throw out the word without a plan to make sure it's something that will actually be effective and that we're actually taking care of each other in the meantime. Personally, Farajii, given the numbers that I mentioned earlier when I first came on the show today, I don't see how the hell boycott's going to change that. I think and that doesn't mean we should not boycott. Let me make that clear. But what I am saying is, the legislature has such a super majority. In my view, I feel like they're prepared to take a couple of hits. Now, on the other side with us, we have to determine, well, how much are we willing to sacrifice where it would be effective enough to gravely hurt them, because we know they love money, that they would actually go back in and actually shift legislation. But in all transparency, they've been rolling out stuff. I don't see them saying, oh my gosh, they're not supporting our businesses. Like, we're going to go in and, make some amendments to these laws that we pass. I don't see that. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I don't see that happening. But if we can come up collectively with a way to make it happen, I'm all in. I'm all for it. And I do hear what you're saying. In the meantime, what are we going to do? But what I'm saying, and why I keep sounding like a broken record, I'm tired of doing shit in the meantime. I want to vote their asses out. There's
and I agree with you. Trust and believe. Whew, Lord knows, I agree with you, Corinna. The only problem is that we aren't the only ones voting.
That's true too.
In number, you see what I'm saying? So we aren't the only ones voting. When I was, in Baltimore, part of the work that I was doing was teaching and training young people on becoming community leaders and community activists. And so it was always like, sometimes we got to go back to history. What has worked in the past? What has worked in the past? You know what I mean? And part of the in activism, like 101, I'm just going to term it that, activism 101. The first thing you do is figure out who you're going up against. Then once you can clearly and concisely determine, okay, this is the target, then you got to figure out their strengths. Then you got to figure out their weaknesses. Then you got to figure out what opportunities can possibly lead you to getting some level of control, and what are the threats. Just do a SWOT analysis on each person. This is what I used to do in campaign, like looking at each person, and then you start to figure out, okay, if we're weak in number, but we might be strong in policy, strong in having a political voice, right? And looking at, okay, what are my resources? What are we working with? What are their resources? What are they working with? If their weakness is social media, then you go hard on their ass in social media. If their weakness is connecting to the communities that they say they represent, then you go right up in their communities and you knock on the doors of their constituents and say, have you seen your lawmaker lately? To create doubt and suspicion. There's got to be some kind of like guerrilla style tactics that are being used, because the voting thing for me, I'm gonna keep it real, it's cool, but it's intermittent. Shit hitting us daily. So we can go to the polls when it's time to go to the polls, but what we're going to do while that's happening, you know what I'm saying? In an off year where there is no election, what are we going to do? You know what I'm saying? We got to organize. We got to build up our army. We got to make sure that we have our cross our T's and dot our I's. I mean, there's got to be a lot of different things that has to happen in this off year. So I do hear you. I just want us and our people to understand, like, you know what? Voting is a tool, but it's not the only tool in the arsenal. Let me go to a couple more folks. Anastasia, you checked in and said, what people have to understand is, if you put your children in a charter school that is run by the parents, the federal dollars have to follow those students. Please join your PTSA.
Yeah.
Like, what is the role of the PTA?
Getting involved, we need to get involved in our kids' education. And I know we're busy working and things like that, but this is a moment where we have to step in and figure out what's happening in these schools. You know, we need to become more of a majority presence in those PTA meetings, school board meetings, right? Like, those white parents don't play.
We don't, but see, you know why? I don't think we come in. At first, I think that there's a culture that among us, the PTA has lost value. Like, people, okay, let's start with ground zero on this point. People have lost faith in schools. We've lost faith in government, schools. We lost faith in a lot of institutions that 30, 40 years ago we deemed as being strong and somewhat unbiased. Hell, people have lost faith in the Supreme Court, right? So when you lose faith in institution, anything coming out of that institution, you're not going to support because you lost faith in it. And as much as a school is doing some great things, yes, you got some schools that are dynamic schools, great engagement. They have tapped into the resources of the community, use those resources properly and well. That's one thing. But I think there are a lot of places that people just lost faith. People just have like said, you know what? I can't make a change. This is not working. All we know is where we are, is our complacency.
But here's the thing: we need to change the leadership. We need to get involved in our organizations and clean them up, and bring our innovative ideas and insight and start so we can clean up the mess and things can actually start happening. I think, I understand how we all get discouraged, and we all, there's some days where I'm high, some days where I'm low, but then we have to remember the ultimate goal. And if we have innovative ideas, we need to come together instead of just sitting back and be like, I lost faith in the institution. How can I change the institution? Let me get in there. Let me bring my people in and turn this thing around.
I agree. I totally agree. Look, I got to take another pause. When we come back, more conversation with Corinna, more conversation with you, crew. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness, and what happens in Black culture. We're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Culture here on the Black Star Network. Talking about the state of Florida and talking about how there's some concern about academic freedom as one school, a progressive school that has a large LGBTQ community members that attend the school. A lot of them are concerned that because they're not getting certain core studies, queer studies, feminist philosophy, and other progressive courses, that they are being censored. And this is as a result of for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his administration taking over this college called New College down in Sarasota, Florida. And so New College is pushing back. Some students, some professors are pushing back against the governor and the board of trustees for schools down in Florida. They feel like, you know what, we're going to break out of this censor. We're going to break out of this cage that you put us in. So we've been checking in with my sister, Corinna Denise, and as we talk about educational affairs, our sister who is right in the mix of things as she serves as a college advisor and educator. Corinna, you know, I always appreciate your intelligence on these conversations, and I agree. Like people got to get involved. Zavago, let me share what you had to say. You said folks haven't lost faith in institutions. They have never been involved in them, nor do they understand how they function and affect their community. I think people have lost it. You know what? I'm gonna keep it real. And Corinna, you tell me if I'm wrong. You're an educator. You've been in this space. I think for a lot of folks, when we send our children to school, whether it's middle, elementary, all the way up to college, to some degree, there's this expectation that they'll do some of the parenting work of developing the character of the child, spending time with the child. So I think to a degree, you have to have faith in your especially in schools. You have to have faith that the institution will keep your child's best interest at heart, based upon your values and your philosophy. You're not going to send your child to a school where you don't trust their judgment, you don't believe in their philosophy, you don't embrace their values. It just doesn't happen. So a lot of us say, okay, if my child is spending 8 to 10 hours a day in a school building, that kind of lifts the burden off of me talking to my child about certain things. And I know that might sound crazy, but I think a lot of people take that approach like, okay, this is a school that I'm in alignment with. So therefore, I don't have to talk to my child about certain things. We have professionals that can talk to the child about certain things. You know what I mean? The school will advocate for my child as an institution versus me as an individual. Am I wrong in thinking that though, Corinna?
I don't think you're wrong in thinking that, but I agree with both points. I agree with you in saying that a lot of us have lost faith in our institutions, and I also agree with what's his name?
Zavago.
I agree with you too that enough of us are not involved. And yes, to a point, yes, you send your child to school hoping they're going to teach these things, but as parents, as family, as the village that takes care of a child, are we checking in and following up? looking at homework, what the curriculum is.
I think it's on a case by case basis, household by household basis. Yeah.
Right. So it's like what reinforces the faith that you have in the institution, right? You would be following up, I'd like to think, to see, okay, I know my child is involved in these activities and this is what they've been studying this week or what they're working on next year. They have a big project coming up. And unfortunately, for a variety of reasons, there are a lot of parents who are disconnected from that. And we have to be responsible enough to be in the know at all times as to what's going on. It's just like what's happening with these white parents in the critical race theory. It's kind of like I'm sitting back here thinking, well, where the hell were you? You didn't know what your child was learning in school before, even though they're using this to their advantage, right? And they're making it up. It's like now all of a sudden you're so concerned you don't even know what your child is learning. That's ridiculous. Where when we were in school, Farajii, okay, our parents literally had to come in to see the teacher to see our grades. The teacher cracks open the grade book, shows you the grades. Now everything's virtual. By the click of a button, you get a notification to your phone. You can see your child's grades, the homework assignments.
I knew it. I'm that guy, Corinna. I'm that.
By the click of a button, right? But right. Of reasons, some of us just aren't involved, and I don't want to make it accusatory that parents just don't care, because I think life just be lifing, okay? And a lot of times it just goes overlooked, unfortunately. But what I am urging everyone to do now is that with all of this foolishness going on, we have to be more cognizant now to just carve out some time to check in with our kids. What are you learning? What's happening in the classroom, right? So that we can make sure, okay, our faith is actually real, because you got all this faith that they're going to teach your child all these things, and you're not checking in to make sure that the school is following through. And that's how we can weed out all the undesirable stuff that's not to our benefit, but to our disadvantage.
I agree. Corinna, I could not have said it better. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I think part of it is the culture that we're living in, right? Like if you have a single parent household and a mother or father that's working 1 to 2 jobs, and got to come home and do all of the housework and do all of the stuff to maintain the home. It's going to be super hard to talk to you if you got 2 children, let alone if you got 3. Imagine if you have 4 children and you running the ship by yourself. Right. You might have a boyfriend or girlfriend or somebody there, but they ain't in the house to you, hold with you day to day. You know what I'm saying? And imagine you running the ship by yourself, man. You're not gonna. It's very hard. The brain doesn't only have so much capacity for so much, right? In terms of taking in and sitting down. What are you learning today? Okay, well that sounds good. What are you learning today?
The brain. That's why teachers have summers off. We think too much, and we need a mental rest.
Yeah. No doubt. Look, we got to wrap up this part of the conversation, but I want to get in 30 seconds. So with this situation down in New College, where do you think this lawsuit will go? Do you think it will make some traction, that it's going to force a reversal of policy from DeSantis and his administration?
I don't see no damn reversal policy, but I hope I'm wrong. But I hope it makes traction. I'm glad that this lawsuit will definitely bring awareness. And I hope that folks all around the country are paying attention, especially in our legislature here in Florida. They've just been rolling out one thing after the other, and people need to pay attention. And just because you're in a state now where this isn't happening, it doesn't mean that it can't happen. Like, these people are in the game for the long haul. And trust, we might not see it next year, but maybe a few years from now, it can definitely happen, and we can't lose sight of that.
When does school start, Corinna, for Florida?
Well, it really just depends on the county. So in Miami-Dade County, kids already went back to school yesterday, I believe. Broward County, where I am, kids go back to school on Monday. So pretty much between this week and next week, kids are going back to school. Yep.
There it is right there. We're going to have to keep our eyes on this lawsuit, because now this involves the LGBTQ plus community. We already know Black folks are upset about the Black history curriculum, and school is just around the corner to start. So we expect some more fireworks to come out from the Sunshine State, folks. That's all I'm gonna say.
You know it.
My sister Corinna Denise checking in all the way from Miami, Florida, and she's a world traveler coming back home from Kemet. She got so much.
Yeah, and I got my shirt. This is a cartouche, and it has my name, Corinna, in the glyphs. So
I'm done with y'all. I'm done with you right now. I'm done with you. And you didn't even think, hey, let me get Farajii a shirt that says his name.
Oh
no, don't say nothing. Don't say a word, Corinna. We'll just deal with that next week when you come on to the show. My sister Corinna Denise.
On Fridays.
There you, hey, Corinna, tell people where they can find you on social media.
Oh, okay. So you guys can follow me at Ren_Ren84. Trying to get the Black-owned media out there. So, but you can hit me up on Instagram, Spill and Fanbase. Let's support our Black-owned media.
There we go, Black-owned platforms. We hear that. All right, Corinna, thank you so much, and thank you as always for being so good for the culture.
Thank you, Farajii. Peace through. Have a great weekend.
You too. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Big shout out to my online culture crew that is just continues to grow each and every day. We got some new supporters very quickly, folks. I just want to just announce who they are. Sharon Underwood, welcome to the Bring the Funk fan club. You are level 1. Thank you so much, Sharon. Holy Ghost 105, thank you so much for supporting us here on the culture. Mackenzie Mitchell brings another Bring the Funk fan club level 1 member. Thank you so much. And Wendell 0612, thank you for your support. That's what it's all about, supporting us as we strive to be a voice for you. Folks, make sure you do your due diligence. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media. But please continue to support us financially because, as Roland said in the commercial, every dollar, every cent makes a difference to make sure that we support this Black-owned space, a media space where we have these conversations and so many other conversations. We bring special guests on and so much other things happening. And we're always streaming the latest news and information that's happening all across this country that's relevant to Black America. So your support makes a huge difference. Go to blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure you let your friends and family know we are on Plex TV. So just check us out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Plex. And we're also on Amazon News, where you can find us on your Fire TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And of course, make sure you sign up for the notifications on our Facebook page under Roland Martin and on our YouTube page under Roland Martin. And we would love to keep you informed about all of the shows when they come on, the restreams, and the team replay is in full effect. All right, that's going to do it for me. I thank my fantastic production team, Maddie, Chris, Joel, Shannon, and my man King Keenan for making me look and sound good. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered for your Friday night, so stick around for that at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong, stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk to on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture. Enjoy your weekend, and I look forward to reconnecting with you very, very soon, right here, exclusively here, only here on the Black Star Network. Support us. Thank you for your continued patience and your continued involvement in making this network great. Have a great weekend. Peace.